And we'll call this meeting to order at 6:35. And will you please join me and rise with the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll kick this off with the town administrator's report. Sean.
Thanks, David. Just want to just recognize, the 7 new officers that we swore in our last meeting. This week, we actually start 2 of those officers. Nick Cruz and Joanne Pena are lateral transfers, so they will only need 4 to 6 weeks of field training. I did have a chance to meet with Joanne Pena today, and really absolutely excited about, the caliber of individuals that we have in this new hiring round. Police department's been busy supporting our synagogues in town, and certainly having bi-weekly meetings with rabbis in Swampscott. Today I did speak with one of our rabbis and assured them that, we are concerned about the rise in anti-Semitism and hate. We seem to be seeing a proliferation of this, so I would urge parents and I would urge folks to talk more about how important it is for us to be more reasonable and civil with each other. We have too many extraordinary freedoms in this country to lose it because of some negativity. Lots of important work is continuing to happen with Kings Beach. I have a detailed update that includes a letter that we sent off to the Secretary of the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. Secretary Cooper has been in contact with me and has shared her excitement and enthusiasm of the type of collaboration that we're seeing on a local and state level. The next step is the federal level, and so we're eager to engage a number of our federal agencies along with the EPA and Army Corps in really getting their assistance as we evaluate additional complementary strategies to address the impairments to Kings Beach. Health Department is busy looking at survey results for our opioid settlement. We have a little bit of money, but certainly we're looking to think about regional strategies for how we address opioid addiction and some of the challenges that our communities have faced with opioids. We are seeing a dramatic rise in respiratory illnesses and flu viruses. Data that the city of Boston has been able to identify with wastewater. We're at a dramatic rise in COVID. So if you're not feeling well, please take care of yourself, mask up. There's no shame in taking care of yourself, and just want to urge folks to, just be real sensitive around folks that may have compromised immune systems. Finance department has been busy. We sent out our budget memo this week. Comes on the heels of the state announcing a dramatic drop in revenue. I don't want to be dour, but I think we have to really recognize that our financial forecasting is a little bit challenged right now. I've asked department heads to actually project a budget with a 10% reduction. This is a decimation of their budgets, but if we're looking at 9C cuts or we're looking at a significant drop in state aid, we have to be ready for that. This exercise is not Pyrrhic. This is a real, challenging budget year, and we're going to have to be very careful about how we recommend appropriations. Capital Improvement Committee is busy. I'm thrilled that we have some great ideas from our Climate Action Committee. I had an opportunity to meet with the members of the Climate Action Committee, but today I also attended a meeting to talk about a number of other improvements to our codes. Our senior center is busy. Our long-awaited kitchen renovations have begun. They should be done over the next few weeks. I know that there have been board members that are very eager to see that project move forward. If anybody wanted to cook a meal on the new equipment. I would welcome your best recipes. I have volunteered, but certainly would accept help. Max has been busy looking at RFPs for solar for our new school. Our RFP includes a design for the roof and a future canopy for the parking lot. I've asked him to look into a solar canopy for all municipal lots. I think we can all play a role in investing in solar. Town clerk has been busy mailing out our census and dog license forms and getting ready for town meeting and elections and primaries on March 5th. Absentee ballots, lots of important work. Recreation had a wonderful New Year's Eve party. These events are so important. We had over 450 attendees. I heard that many people attended that weren't from Swampscott, which frankly sounds awesome, because we want to be a place where people come to and enjoy, an extraordinary event. Our summer program is on our website. We have a 12-month calendar of events this year that recently is being presented, so you can look at that calendar and plan a whole year of no-cost and low-cost events. We will be updating that with all sorts of other activities for the library and for senior center. Community Development is working on a grant application for passive recreation on our newly purchased Archer Street. There was a drone footage of the property, and it absolutely looks magnificent. Chief Archer brought the fire department's drone up there, and you can overlook the waterfront, and the thought is that perhaps we can build a tower that folks can actually go up and just take a look at the city of Boston and get a sense of just how unique that property is. That's my report.
Thanks, Sean. Questions, comments from the board?
I have a couple questions. On the, where are we at with the Kings Beach, the Water Sewer Committee?
We have received resumes. Both Doug and David have screened the candidates. I anticipate that at our next meeting, we will be prepared to come back and make recommendations to the board for appointing individuals to this committee.
You've screened candidates?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
It's incredible pool of candidates have applied.
Agree.
Absolutely. Some.
We're very, very fortunate.
It's surprising how many people want to talk about wastewater and and trash talk. So it's a sign of some great citizens.
I have another question on the financial handout that was sent out. By charter, we're obligated to have the financial review by November 15th to read the actual term in the charter.
Yep.
Is the annual financial forecast that the town administrator will report to select board. We are well past November 15th, and this happened again last year. So are we going to have that review?
I'm happy to work with the chair. You did get a spreadsheet that had 5 years worth of financial forecasts, I think late November, early December.
We're supposed to have a public review with the finance committee and the school committee.
Sure, I'm happy to schedule that with the chair of the board, if you,
That'd be great.
and our finance
Yeah.
team.
It was on an agenda.
It was, yep.
Was it not?
Yep.
Yeah, it got tabled, I think, or something, for some reason. But it was on there.
Yeah.
I'm happy to,
Okay.
have a
Yeah, we can
conversation.
get that.
I will, again, I'll say this when we talk about it. The forecast has been helpful, but it also is, it's challenging because, we project deficits, but we work to solve those deficits every year. And so, some folks have kind of looked at that as kind of a fruitless exercise, but I think it's helpful to kind of, look at what our baked-in costs are. We actually take our actual expenditures, we look at, 10 years worth of actual expenditures. We come up with a model that is, based on the last 3 years worth of actual activities with 5 years worth of actual activities, and we weight the prior year more than but it never comes close to our reality.
I understand, it's just that it is in the charter, and.
Yeah, that's why I put it
we can
together.
support it.
Good. Katie?
Great.
Sean, just a quick question about, the revenue from the state. I mean, how short is this revenue shortfall, you know?
It's
with
significant
how-
enough where, you know, we're off, I think, the last 7 months. And the state is actually sending out some signals that we have to be prepared for a likelihood that the state could be making dramatic changes. They've already identified any outside appropriations in the budget are going to be the first to get cut. And so the town, you know, received some supplemental appropriations. And so we're worried we're going to lose some of those projects. And again, this is across the Commonwealth. So state's got to figure out how to solve that budget challenge. And so we're worried that local aid's going to be cut this year. I think it will have budget implications. We've got to kind of figure out how to balance the Commonwealth books. And so I can get you more specificity at our next meeting, but certainly, you know, we're going through exercises that would help us prepare for mid-year budget cuts by the state.
Got it. So, yeah, as more information comes to light, please share it with us.
So this week I met with a number of department heads. We did end-of-year projections with their budget. We're 6 months through the fiscal year. We basically take the last 6 months' worth of expenditures and divide it by 6, times it by 12. We get gross end-of-year projections. We go back and touch each line based on what we know about certain expenditures, based on, you know, our activity, and we're projecting end of year. And so we've already have a number of departments that have frozen their budgets so that no additional discretionary expenditures could be made, because we are under an obligation to meet budget. And so it's going to be another exercise in meeting budget.
Thanks.
So are you saying that money that's already been committed, we might not get money that was committed?
That's right. Yep.
Mhm.
The budgets are not contracts. They're, you know, best plans. You know, we're looking at our receipts as well, and we may have to make some adjustments based on, you know, our meals tax, based on certain, you know, estimates. We always have to go back and say, hey, are we going to be able to meet our balanced budget responsibilities?
When will our second quarter financials be completed, reconciled?
Next week. You know, I met with our finance director today. You know, we used the numbers that we have through the second quarter, but, you know, she's got to send out those reports. I have asked her to make sure we get those out monthly, and I think the board can expect to have.
I believe we previously established the first meeting after the first month after a quarter, because it takes the month following an end of quarter, frankly, for the finance
All the
director.
bills have to-
So that would be the first meeting in February, kind of is the charge timeline for us to get quarterlies.
That's right, Peter.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. All right, we'll move on to public comment. Public comment is where members of the public can comment and approach the microphone and speak for up to 3 minutes about items that are not on our regular agenda. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak this evening? Ms. Lau.
So just quickly, I was a little disheartened at the end of the last meeting, and how those ARPA funds were. I was disheartened played out, it seems to me that ARPA funds were intended for other things. And there seems to be a continual playbook of things are said to be incredibly important, and the playbook is, it has to happen now. And I feel that we have seen this playbook play out at town meeting, and that it is not always accurate, and that maybe taking a step back at times, waiting for a full board to be here to discuss those things would have been prudent, would have been in certainly the town's best interest, in my opinion, and would see this project to be a little bit more reflective. Obviously, I'm not in favor of it. I think it's a big disappointment and a big miss for our town that Hadley will turn into a boutique hotel with exclusivity, and that the RFP couldn't even include the language that was approved at town meeting to say to have one community room. It's disheartening, and I think it's disrespectful to the voting members of the community. I think it played out really poorly, and I was really just, to sound stupid, disappointed. Not shocked, but disappointed. It's just disappointing. Changing gears quickly, let me just say, it is not easy to get up here and do this time and time again. So, to that, okay? Thinking about schools, I hear the budget concerns, and I certainly understand that. I do know that the schools are concerned. I listen to pretty much every meeting that I can in town. Certainly not live, but at some point. I really want to impress upon you that I do not, having had students in this school system since 2021, I do not want to see us go back to not having nurses in our classrooms. I do not want to see any more staff cuts at the high school. I do not want to see us lose libraries, close libraries.
Thank you, Ms. Lau.
I just hope not.
Thank you, Ms. Lau. Well, you can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
I kind of passed this out. I was asked to come tonight.
Just please state your name and address for the record when you get to the microphone.
Okay. I should have had 10 copies, but
We could share.
yeah. So my name is Nina Rogers, and I live in Nahant. I was a teacher here at Swampscott High School for 16 years. I taught Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 honors. I have been the varsity tennis coach for 16 years. And I've come here to talk on behalf of the community and the opportunity to have pickleball courts. Because I've seen what's happened to our tennis courts. We only have 6. If you compare us to the neighboring community of Marblehead, they have a lot more. And every other community seems to has built a lot of pickleball courts. Marblehead, Lynn, Salem, everyone offers that opportunity to their citizens. And I feel like we are doing a disservice to our community not to take advantage of the opportunity that the state, aren't they offering money to build pickleball courts? So I was just, in using our tennis courts, which we only have 6, as a pickleball court, really takes away from our students and the people who enjoy tennis. Because I'm the varsity tennis coach. Courts 5 and 6 have pickleball court lines on it. And we go to play a match, and our second doubles team plays on court 5. Well, most of these girls are inexperienced. And all of a sudden, they're seeing tennis lines and pickleball court lines, and it's confusing to these young people. And, you know, I just think it would be great for this community to be able to offer to our citizens, if they pay taxes. I mean, pickleball is, and you see my handout, is just, it's the up-and-coming sport. And why can't we as a community offer that to our young people, old people? Anyway, does anyone have any questions? I'm just passionate about, you know, a racket sport, and I think it's something, especially pickleball, because I think it's something that is something that the senior citizens can play more. And it would be, and I wrote on my notes here, sorry, if you saw them. I think that one of the biggest concerns last time was the noise, right, that people brought up. But there are new ways of, I think on my notes here, that there are new rackets that they put out that are less noisy. Anyway, I'm done. I just wanted to express my opinion here and just hope that you would take that into consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. We'll move on to new business and adoption of January 27th as Holocaust Memorial Day. And before we read, we have a proclamation. Before we read it, it's incredible that we're sitting here in 2024, and we're still talking about and dealing with anti-Semitism, and we're dealing with anti-Semitism in our town. And I just speaking for myself, there's no place for hate, there's no place for anti-Semitism within the town of Swampscott, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. So I want to make sure that everyone, especially those of, especially those residents who have Jewish heritage, are respected and feel comfortable within the confines of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and within the town of Swampscott. So with that, Holocaust Memorial Day proclamation by the town of Swampscott. Whereas the town of Swampscott will never forget the events of the Holocaust and the millions of Jewish and other minority groups who suffered and died during the most tragic genocide in modern history. And
whereas anti-Semitic incidents continue to increase in the United States, once reaching an all-time high in 2021 with a total of 2,717 incidences of assault, harassment, and vandalism reported to the Anti-Defamation League.
Whereas since the Hamas massacre on the Jewish state on October 7th, 2023, the ADL has recorded an unprecedented rise in vandalism, harassment, and assault directed at Jews and Jewish institutions.
Whereas this year on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27th, 2024, we commemorate the 79th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp. And
whereas honoring the victims and survivors begins with our renewed recognition of the value and dignity of each person, it demands from us the courage to protect the persecuted and speak out against bigotry and hatred.
And whereas on this anniversary, we recommit ourselves to combating the global rise in anti-Semitism and the evil that threatens not only those of Jewish faith, but those of all faith and backgrounds. And
whereas recent acts of hate in Swampscott serve as a painful reminder of our obligations to condemn and combat rising anti-Semitism in all its forms, including the denial or trivialization of the Holocaust. And
whereas this anniversary is an opportunity to reflect on the progress we have made confronting this terrible chapter in human history and on our continuing efforts to end genocide. And
whereas the definition of anti-Semitism reads as follows. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews, Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and/or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. And
now therefore, on behalf of the entire Select Board, we do hereby proclaim January 27, 2024 as Holocaust Memorial Day in the town of Swampscott, Massachusetts, and encourage all of faith-based and non-profit organizations, residents, businesses, and public institutions to acknowledge, honor, and value Jewish people's historic and current contributions locally and beyond, while also recognizing the ongoing and interconnected struggles of all Jewish communities locally and beyond. In witness whereof we have unto set our hands, Select Board on this day.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the board?
never again.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's just incredibly important that we take time and talk about this and make sure that folks in the community can talk about it. 6 million people perished in the Holocaust. It is incredibly important for us to think about the rise in anti-Semitism and the responsibility we have to ensure that every human being in this town, and frankly, in this state, in this country, in this world, is treated with dignity and respect.
Thanks, Sean. All right, we'll move on. Discussion and possible vote on our donation policy and to name the high school baseball field 207 Forest Avenue. Sean?
Thank you, David. Tonight, the board has a donation policy before it. I was hopeful that we could take the recommendation to name the diamond at the baseball field in honor of our legendary coach, Frank DeFelice. Coach DeFelice, has an extraordinary record of accomplishment on the baseball field as a varsity coach, but most importantly, I think, his support for Swampscott students and his life dedication as a teacher is reflected here tonight with a number of individuals that knew him, and I would encourage the gentleman to come down and share a few remarks about your friend and your coach. Coach DeFelice, unfortunately, right now is dealing with some health issues, and we certainly wanted to take an opportunity to try to reflect a timely remembrance. I know that Gino Cresta, our assistant town administrator, and DPW director, shares a strong recommendation that we take a moment and honor Coach DeFelice's life. So with that, Mr. Caponegro.
Yes, thank you for having us, and thank you for all the work that you guys do. My name's Joe Caponegro. I'm almost a lifelong resident of Swampscott. Been here probably 55 years, and I live on Pine Hill Road, 52 Pine Hill Road, and I have kind of a distinction, I believe. I played for Coach he taught me. I was a student of Coach DeFelice's. I played for Coach DeFelice. I coached against Coach DeFelice, and now I'm the coach at Swampscott High School baseball. Coach, he is Sean said, he's had some tremendous accomplishments, not just wins, losses, state championships, but just the impact, the profound impact he's had on, students and student athletes. And this, I think, is long overdue. And I think now's the time to do it because, and he's a very private individual, so he'd be upset if he knew we were even up here. He has no idea about it.
We won't tell anybody.
Yeah.
He's not watching.
But he is certainly, he's an icon, and as the high school baseball coach, I get the schedule and, for the year, and it says, our games are at Swampscott Middle School. And I just think that naming it DeFelice Diamond, I think it's much deserved, and like I said, overdue, long overdue. So thank you for hearing me, and I know these gentlemen want to say a few words as well.
Thanks, Joe.
Hi, Steve Belpet, resident of Nahant, Swampscott High School, class of, I'd rather not discuss it. Just an idea, the idea came about a few years ago as I was going to Swampscott baseball games with my best friend, Tommy LeBlanc. His nephew was, Luke Marshall was pitching, and we'd go to several games. And I'd always see Coach DeFelice there. And again, his accomplishments aside, which would be enough to warrant something, it just struck me that his continued support for the program, always being there, always offering help, and that led me to bring up the idea to Joe, and not wanting to step on toes and making too big a deal of it. I said, well, what if we just named the diamond after Coach DeFelice? I like the idea of DeFelice Diamond. And as I told Joe, someday, several years from now, after my friend Joe wins his 8th state championship, we can name it. It'll be DeFelice Diamond at Caponegro Coliseum. Whatever, but just carving out this slice for Coach DeFelice, who I've known since I was, very young, and always appreciated him, even when he was yelling at me. Anyway, it's time to do this, and I think it would be, again, he'd be upset if he knew we were here, probably, but sorry, Coach. Anyway, we hope you will follow through with this. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
He said support at games, he also financially.
Just a microphone, yeah.
I just want to say that Steve mentioned the support of, coming to the games, but he sends a check in for our program yearly, so he still backs everything to do with Big Blue Sports and baseball.
I just put in my 2 cents. Joe, Mike Massey, 55 Winshaw Road, Swampscott. Joe asked for some former of his players to maybe stop in and show support tonight. And I think Steve said something this isn't about Joe Kappa, but this field one day could be Joe Kappa field too. So when Joe talks, I listen. So I'm here. I did have the privilege of playing under Coach DeFelice football and baseball, late 70s, early 80s. And he's got a big footprint in this town. I think Sean kind of encapsulated it pretty well there as well. And if anyone deserves this type of honor, it is Coach DeFelice for his longevity and all his contributions, and it kind of goes without saying. So I just figured I'd stop in and reiterate, I think, what everyone already knows. So hopefully this one's an easy one.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
So with that, if the board would entertain a motion to support
Support
recommendation to name the baseball diamond in honor of Coach DeFelice, I think that would allow us to address a timely memorial for a person that has dedicated their life to the town.
Happy to do that. I just have one question. The donation policy, is that a separate thing? That just happens?
They seem to have no relation to each other whatsoever. Great question.
We don't have a donation policy.
That's a separate topic,
We got
right?
separate
Okay.
topics.
Okay.
trying to-
Yeah.
It should have been
We're
2
talking two
separate
different things.
agenda
Okay,
items.
all right.
Agreed.
All right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Agreed.
Happy to make a motion.
Well, can I just ask what are we naming the field? You've
The
said it.
baseball diamond.
No, I understand what
What's the
physical
name?
space you're talking about. I'm asking what's the name you're asking us.
DeFelice
support.
Diamond.
No, I don't think that's what, I've heard 3 different names so far, so I'm just asking
Yeah,
what
it's
the name is.
DeFelice Diamond. That is, I think, the recommendation from the.
Yep.
Not Coach DeFelice, just DeFelice Diamond?
Police Diamond. Double D.
Right. And then, so can I just ask, since we're on this, but we don't have a naming policy.
We don't.
So this wasn't intended to add a naming policy. This was intended to have us talk about other things related to the field, but not a naming policy, but you want us to support a recommendation to
I
name
do,
the field.
because this came in as a timely.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something.
No.
Because, okay.
Ideally, we'd like to vote on the naming policy, get that established, and then come back. we have a mitigating circumstance given the health issue of the coach, and so this is out of sync.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Did anybody make the motion?
Doug
Doug
did.
has to make it.
Said I was willing to.
Oh, I
guess that was
thought you
good
said,
enough.
oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
happy to
But
make the
I kinda
motion.
did, yeah.
I think that holiday break kind of.
Happy to make a motion to rename or name the baseball field De Felice Diamond.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
very much. Have a great night. All right, and we'll talk about the donation policy. The way I'm viewing the donation policy is this would be the first read of the donation policy. We can have comments and questions from the board, and then we can look to firm that up at our next meeting.
And is this a brand-new policy, or is
This
this a
is.
revised policy? Brand new?
Yep. And so over the years, we've done some solicitation. I think it does get a little confusing when department heads want to go out and raise money. You know, this is an area where oftentimes we can run into some complexity in terms of how much is reasonable to ask for, you know, what are we raising money for? And it's important that I think the board is apprised of certain thresholds. Certainly, we want to raise money for recreation programs, we want to raise money for public safety, we want to raise money for any number of activities, but we want to do it in a way that's consistent with, you know, some standard of control. This policy reflects a reasonable practice. There are thresholds in here that I think would help support a risk mitigation in terms of behaviors that could be perceived as inappropriate.
When we took the donations in of the statues, did we not discuss a policy then? Oh, that was
We did not.
placing the statues, right?
No, it was actually
Oh.
just, I think that was probably ceremonial. I mean, technically, I think under Mass General Law, we have to vote to accept certain gifts.
Oh, okay,
But I think that was probably more ceremonial.
understood.
I think the town administrator can put things on town lawns or town properties.
Okay,
My recollection is we didn't actually vote on that. That was a ceremonial meeting. Can I just ask that we please add a naming policy?
Sure.
I mean, it feels like it's an obvious
Yep.
void here, so. And I assume this is also modeled after in other communities, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Can you just tell me what communities this was modeled after? Because I'd like just to be able to
Sure.
understand.
and
And then,
I assume
just,
it's been vetted by council?
then my last question was gonna be council, or Katie's first question is gonna be council. Has
Yeah.
this been vetted by council?
I believe it has. I had the Director of Community and Economic Development pull it together, and so.
So if you can, if you don't know, if you could confirm that
I
for
will.
us, please.
And we're not sure about the other communities. You're going to check on that?
I will check.
Sean, with the levels on 1.5, we're talking about thresholds of $5,000. All sponsorships over $5,000 require select board approval. Anything up to $5,000 would run through the town administrator or designee. I'm just curious as to how that was.
That's
how that
pretty
was selected.
tight. You know, I've worked, you know, in other municipalities where it's been up to 25, you know, it's, that threshold is pretty low, but, you know, if the board wants to kind of discuss, you know, what range, I'm sure that there's a number of communities that have different ranges for what department heads are gonna be allowed to go and solicit funds for, and what would require a town administrator's approval, or what would require the select board's approval.
So would this be an individual gift of 5,000 or an aggregated gift of 5,000? So for instance, we have a street festival in Swampscott. So we go out and we solicit sponsorships for this type of event. In aggregate, it might, you know, no one person or one company or one organization is donating $5,000 or more. However, in aggregate, it can exceed that $5,000 threshold, and I just want to make sure that we're not stepping on our tails.
Sure. I do think we can add some qualifying language that includes events, and add a threshold in there for, certain thresholds for donations for those events. The thought was, if you're getting, something that was over $5,000, that should go to the select board. Anything under 5,000 seemed to be,
Ministerial.
yeah.
Can you just give an example of like what we would be naming, or it just seems very abstract? Can you just give me some type of an idea here? I mean, we're naming a fire hydrant after a bank or
A
something? What's going
building,
on?
a room,
Anything?
public area, a bench. There's all sorts of things that people would like to, have named after a loved one. And so this helps us just have a policy that says this is how we're gonna define those responsibilities.
So we've had no policy in the past. Are there any, is there anything in and around town that has just been placed, or?
I haven't done an audit, but yes, we've done that frequently. Every year we do something. Every year there's a bench, every year there's a feature or something that is typically donated to the town, and so we want to bring some structure around that.
With our approval or without our approval? I mean, is there anything that's just popping up around town that is?
Yes, things
that
have
is a
popped up
surprise?
around town, yep.
Okay.
Some, there are some things that I have approved, some things that some department heads have approved, and some things that some committees have approved, but it should all come to the select board.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some names on, like, next to the tennis courts near the middle school. I think there's some names there, and there's some names on benches, and,
Right.
so various places
So
around
we're
town.
gonna try to corral it all and say, it has a policy, and if you wanna name anything, it has to come through a policy.
So I guess this says department heads. So basically, it's got to kind of work through you, the way this reads, if I get it right. But I don't know how many total department heads you have, but, it could be 10 different people out there kind of soliciting money. You would have to know about that happening. I think it's maybe a little bit to what David was getting at earlier, maybe. So there could be a bunch of different people, I could see, the rec director doing it, and community development doing it, and,
Police department, fire
but
department.
yeah, right.
DPW.
Right.
They're all working with vendors, they're all
Yeah.
soliciting, something that
Right.
might be helpful to the town.
Yeah, yeah.
We wanna control that, because it can be problematic.
Yeah. Unlikely that everyone's going to be doing this all the time, but yeah.
That's true. But, every year we have rec events, we have golf tournaments, we do look for sponsorship. We do ask individuals to help subsidize some of our summer rec concerts.
I do just want to interrupt for 1 second. Joe, is our audio okay? Because I'm getting messages that we're having a severe audio problem. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sean, will there be some sort of limitation as to what can be sponsored? Or are you giving parameters to department heads, or are vendors coming to us and saying, I want the high school auditorium to be named after me? Like, I don't want this to become, the place where anybody can buy anything in town. I get what you're trying to do. I don't think that's what you're trying to do, but I just want to understand the lengths at which this might go.
Sure. Katie, it's a good question. Right now, I don't have any companies or firms looking to have the town name something. We have had that in the past. I do have an individual that has wanted to make a donation to the town, a sizable donation that would like to name it after a loved one. So frankly, I think, we're going to have these opportunities from time to time, and having a policy by which the board could accept that, and we have a threshold that says over a certain number, it comes back to the board, and we talk about that, and we talk about the appropriateness of of whether or not there's a fitness, for that type of donation, that could be helpful. I do know, we have vendors that work for the town. Oftentimes, we want good corporate citizenship. We have companies in Swampscott that frankly, we want them to be good corporate citizens. And so we look at possible opportunities under the Community Reinvestment Act that banks are obligated to support, that, frankly, we don't want them just buying box seats at the Fleet Center. We want them to actually invest in community. So all of those things are possibilities that we can kind of use the donation policy to actually, just encourage good community support. But having it all come back to the board, I think ultimately ensures that we mitigate some risk that it just is willy-nilly. And I
Right.
think that's what we have had, and that can be problematic. It can be unfair to certain people that may have connections. It may, we want to have a little bit more stringent standard of care for how we approach this.
Yeah, I think too, it's also a balance between if you want to buy yourself a auditorium in the high school, or you want to make a significant time contribution like Coach did, and that in turn, becomes your donation, right? And that's why we recognize people for the time and energy that they give to the town. Like, that's more important to me than it's somebody writing a check. So I just want to make sure that it's not just one or the other, but both.
I agree with you completely, Katie. I think that's a perfect way to kind of approach this. And I think, this policy, over the next 2 weeks, we can tweak it. We can look at adding some naming language to it that helps us, just ensure that, it has a framework that we can work within. But obviously, at the end of the day, the board has the discretionary authority to exercise your broad prerogative as the governing body, so.
And then how do we deal with terms? I mean, so if somebody wants to come in and, I'll stay with the naming of the auditorium. Do the Mass General Law, does that actually have term limit? Like, how long does it stay named? How do we work that out? Is that something that would be done per deal, or?
That's an interesting question. I think, there's likely some case law on that.
Yeah.
And I'd have to, look at a policy that, outlines a term, but.
And I think we don't have a naming policy here, but I think there is a difference between naming and dedicating a space after somebody and somebody sponsoring a space. So I think it'd be good to understand the difference there.
So there's also language about acceptance of grants. Gifts or grants of funds over $5,000 must be accepted by the select board. What has the process and procedure been with grants prior to?
Generally, grants have been accepted by the select board. I can't say, the town has not accepted grants. I think we do accept certain grants under a certain.
So if we're accepting the grants, I just want some clarification here. If we need to accept the grants, are we then a potential impediment to town department heads applying for grants? Because if we ultimately have to vote to accept, I just want to make sure that we don't, we're not.
I think it's a very good question, David. I think we should look at that and just ensure that is not going to become an overly burdensome, standard.
I think the word grant here is really meant in a different way than kind of like a director of community development getting a grant, because here it says all grants are gifts of funds. I think this is more like a person kind of granting some money or a small thing.
The way I was thinking about it too, Doug, and I think, maybe there's a way for us to qualify it as all personal grants or.
Non-municipal grant?
Yeah, that's fine. I thought I would just bring it to light.
I read it the same way you did to begin with,
Yeah.
but now that I'm staring at it, maybe it's a little different, so. I guess the only, another thing to think about for next time is 5,000 the right number? Where'd that come from? What would that buy? You know, like, if that means for 5,000, someone's gonna have like a big billboard on, you know, town hall, that probably wouldn't be the right threshold. But, yeah. So.
Yeah. You know,
That's gonna get a little plaque on one little bench, you know, or something, well, then maybe that's the right level, but, so.
I think that's certainly an important conversation to have. I think we can probably put a range in there and just talk a little bit about, what that means. Obviously, every one of these donations is a donation to a nonprofit, and there's certain, benefits to making donations to the town, so.
Additional comments or questions? And again, this is just a first read. We'll come back with some additional information, and we'll present that to the board. So Sean, this will be ready for our meeting on the 24th.
Yes, I think we can roll this up and have a broader discussion about each of the sections.
Great. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Discussion and possible vote on changing the makeup of the Solid Waste Committee. Ms. Fletcher.
So, I brought this up at our last meeting. We just wanted to have documentation in front of us for this meeting. But just to recap, what we're looking to do is to drop 3 voting members on this committee. That will be the Select Board member, the Board of Health appointee. Actually, no, so it's the Select Board member, it's the Director of Health, and Gino Cresta, the Director of DPW. This actually, the Board of Health appointee is actually still in the mix.
As someone from the Board of Health, or this says?
It says as an appointee from the Board of Health. The Board of Health has to send in an appointee.
You still want it, because here it says it's moving it just to being a resident member, but that's not true. You want it to still be the Board of Health person?
Yes, but they are still, yeah, they need to be a Board of Health person. Okay, so if you could just.
So we're not expanding the size of the committee, it's just a reorg.
We're just reorganizing. So what we're doing is we're taking those 3 spots as voting members out. They will still be attending meetings. The liaison will attend meetings when they can, or communicate with the chair. The Director of Health, who is Jeff Vaughn right now, he will check in or attend meetings, depending on what the chair needs. And then the DPW Director will do the same thing. So this way, they're not going to tie up a quorum. We're going to put in 3 positions, 3 residents who could actually be working members of a committee, and it's just going to, it should move a lot more efficiently and get a lot more help out of it.
And are we going to post for these 3 open, these?
We would need to
positions?
post, yes, we would need to post for these 3 positions and fill them.
Is there the potential of having an issue with quorum? Just in this interim period between today and whenever these 3 individuals are seated?
I would think that what we should do is we should vote to do this, but to have it in place within a month from now. So we would say we would vote now, and then we'd say effective February, first week of February, second week of February. This way we can have new members in.
And that's enough time for Wayne and?
I would say
and
so,
committee
because
members.
there are applicants on the books right now.
Okay.
And Diane could send out something tomorrow morning, because I think even in the applications that have come in for the Sewer and Advisory Committee, there are people that are expressing that they would like to do solid waste.
Okay.
So,
And obviously, these recommendations came with conversation with the committee.
yeah,
So-
for about 5 months. Right now, it's difficult to, it's a challenge to get a quorum, but it's always done. But what you also see is you have really 5 members that are doing all the work. And this is really a working committee.
Yeah.
Yep.
We do a lot of work, a lot of research.
Yep.
So adding 3 more people in there. And also, asking Gino Cresta and Jeff Vaughn to stay after that late and then to attend another 2.5-hour meeting. You're asking a lot of town directors.
And you, for that matter.
That goes without saying. But I love these meetings. They're awesome.
So I went back to remind myself, I made the motion originally to create this committee, and I don't have a problem with these changes, but I just want to highlight why the committee was originally formed the way it was. And I think it had to do with just making sure that the work, at the time the committee was charged, and essentially, it's great, they're focusing on a lot of things, but really we were going through a tumultuous time in terms of contract negotiations and price increases on our solid waste line item, which is a huge line item, uncontrollable line item in our budget. And so I think that there was concern that we didn't want there to be a lack of alignment with at least understanding what is feasible to do as opposed to what's desirable to do. And I say that really a lot of times having to do sometimes with logistics, but more often than not about finances, right? Which is, there's a lot of things we may want to do, but in the context of financial reality, what is doable and what's not, and to make sure that this committee is always tethered to the people that can at least, what I'm going to call, be guardrails of just reason, just in the context of municipal finance or municipal law or just logistics and things of that nature. So I just want to make sure that I hear you about town staff, but at the same time, town staff's the one that has to deal with the headache when all of a sudden the select board gets a policy that sounds really wonderful and we really want to do it, but financially it's not feasible. Logistically, it's never really going to be implemented the way it's talked or something of that nature because there was a disconnect there. So I just want to make sure that we somehow make sure that we create that connectivity before it shows up here at the select board, because it avoids the inefficiency and sometimes awkwardness of us saying, well, what did town staff have to say about it? And town staff say they don't really want to publicly say anything negative or critical, and I would just rather make sure that we have those interactions all happen before they come to the board, just to work out. And again, it's not to agree to everything, it's not to compromise just to compromise, it's about just making sure everybody understands the limitations, and so that thoughtful decisions are made even knowing or despite those limitations, so that by the time it comes to this board can say, great, it's really been a 360 conversation. So that was why the other staff was put as members, to get them there, to make so that the board really couldn't take action without having those conversations, because they needed that for a quorum. I'm fine, I get the reasons for changing it, I'm totally fine with it. I just want to make sure that somehow we, and this is really the town administrator more than anything, that we create this connectivity, because and again, we're going to have the same thing with the sewer advisory, we have the same thing with harbor advisory, we have the same thing with, any other advisory committees, which is their advisory, right? Earth removal is advisory, right? And what happens is, disconnect just can make people feel like it's inefficient, or their time's not respected and appreciated. And so I just wanted to make sure that connection was always.
Peter, I think it's a really important point. I think this solid waste committee has been successful beyond our, expectations. I appreciate that we have a solid waste committee that really likes to trash talk, but our health department under the town charter is in charge of sanitation. And so it's important to kind of understand the charter actually speaks to what board is in charge of dealing with sanitation, and to not have a health director involved in those conversations, I think, you miss a little bit of the charter.
I just want to be really clear that the request is not to remove them from the committee, but to remove them as voting members, so that they need to be available upon request of the chairman. So which means is they would probably attend a meeting, but only have to stay there for maybe the first half an hour, and they're not a voting member. It is not to remove them.
Totally understand.
Okay.
And I just think it's important
Just make sure that that's also in whatever we.
Yeah, I see the ex officio, and I don't generally disagree, even though I did hear from one of these individuals that they're a resident, and they like the idea that, they had a voice in policy recommendations from the committee, but.
They can apply.
That's right. I also said, hey, look, you're an employee, you have more of a voice than.
Well, I spoke to them and they said, thank you.
So look at that. The only thing I want to say, what Mary Ellen said, look at the town administrator decides
how town staff uses their time, so I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
A chairperson can't say to a town staff, you need to attend a meeting. Like, they
Yeah.
have to go through the town administrator, just because that's the protocol. But still, the town administrator should readily make people available when it's reasonable and convenient to do so.
Generally, I feel.
No, you do. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't want
Yeah.
people to mistakenly think that.
We want to help every committee, but we also have to run a town, and so there are days that Gino frankly has to step out of a meeting, days that I have to step out of meetings. We have a town to run that has, evolving day-to-day priorities. That said, this has been an incredibly successful committee. I hope these changes do help continue to move the committee in a forward direction.
So, you want me to make a motion? So I'd like to make a motion to make these changes to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee effective February 15th, 2023. 2024, well, yeah.
Do I have a second?
24.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So Diane, can you advertise that tomorrow and then start to send notices out to the people that you have on your list?
Diane, can you advertise that tomorrow and make sure that everybody, thank you.
Facebook and town website and on the newsletter.
Awesome. When's the next newsletter?
It comes up the end of the month.
Okay, thank you.
Too late.
All right. Thank you, Mary Ellen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sean. We're going to move on. We're going to have the review of the Town Administrator's Annual Select Board review. So first and foremost, Select Board has reviewed the Town Administrator for fiscal year '23. Certainly a bit delayed in addressing this review. My apologies. I'm sorry, so I wanted to apologize to the board and apologize to the Town Administrator for not doing this, much sooner. I think your contract required us to do this in
No
Q3.
worries.
So, I do apologize for the tardiness here. So just to kind of let folks at home know what the process is. So what Sean will do is Sean will do a self-evaluation, and he will send that to the members of the board, and all the members of the board will do their own evaluations. The chair then takes all evaluations and comments and compiles them together. And myself, as well as Katie Phelan, we met with Sean at the end of December to talk about the review. I do believe most board members have met with Sean to discuss their individual reviews as of today. No? Tomorrow, okay. But you have the
Soon.
opportunity, you
Yes.
have the opportunity to do so. I'm sure Sean will make the time. So I've taken the comments from the board members, and I've created a summary document, which I'll read for the record, and therefore, thereafter, I'll allow the board to comment further. And then according to Sean's contract, we will vote discretionary bonus, and then we will allow Sean to address us. So that's sort of the process that we're going to go through this evening. So.
Could you just on the one thing on the process, could you just explain, so we fill out the evaluation.
Correct.
But the evaluation doesn't become public.
The individual evaluation does not become public. The consolidated
Consolidated
will
becomes
become
public,
public, yes.
right?
And the consolidated is what we have before us, the narrative that, yes.
Correct.
Right, yep.
All right, thanks. Swampscott Select Board has undertaken its annual review of Town Administrator Sean Fitzgerald. The review is for the fiscal year '23, and as in past years, it included a self-evaluation from the Town Administrator, as well as individual assessments from each member of the Select Board. This evaluation summary completes the annual review process. Fiscal year '23, including many accomplishments and achievements within the town of Swampscott, including multiple town meetings. The town, fresh off its acquisition of the Hawthorne, held numerous idea sessions with the public, 400-plus attendees at the Hawthorne Visioning Session in January 23 to gather input and continue making progress as to the next chapter at the Hawthorne property. Additionally, the town administrator has spent considerable time, effort, and energy with town staff and consultants to ready the Hadley RFP. which will redevelop and reimagine the Hadley School as an economic engine that will revitalize and re-energize Humphrey Street in our downtown corridor. Under the leadership of the town administrator, the town and the Recreation Department spearheaded a number of community initiatives in 2023. This was the priority of our board to bring residents together on Town Hall lawn, or on Fisherman's Beach, or on Humphrey Street, or other locations in and around town for low-cost, no-cost events to reconnect as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. Continued efforts to add events for all ages include a Pride Day 5K, Swampscott Porch Fest, Mountwater Day at the Beach, Strawberry Festival, Wednesday concert series, Juneteenth celebration, July 4th races, turkey hunt, Christmas parade, and more are now part of the fabric of our community. Sean continues to lead and, when necessary, provide funding to ensure these events happen. The town administrator consistently credits professional staff, Danielle Strauss and Jackie Camerlingo, as well as dozens of volunteers the town needs to make these events happen. Sean can often be found attending these events with his family and making a positive impression on residents through his heartfelt speeches and participation in events. The dunk tank at Swamptoberfest comes to mind for me. Sean loves the town of Swampscott and loves his role as town administrator within the town of Swampscott. Despite facing much adversity for the last year, Sean comes to work each and every day with a smile and exuberance for his job, remaining positive and optimistic for the future of our town. The Select Board has tasked the town administrator with supporting and promoting affordable housing initiatives within the town of Swampscott. Sean, with the help of elected officials and professional staff, has led the charge to take the lead with the issuance of an RFP and complex negotiations of a purchase and sale agreement for much-needed veterans housing initiative on Pine Street. In the last year, Sean has also worked with the leadership of the Swampscott Housing Authority to see if, for the first time, that the town and the Swampscott Housing Authority can work together to create 21st century public housing. It is the thinking of the town administrator that we must do more than the bare minimum for the residents of Swampscott. Sean believes that the town should work with state and federal agencies to create housing that each and every resident of town would live in, housing that is ADA accessible for current and future residents of Duncan, Doherty, and Cherry Street. This is a long-term goal and will take the nonlinear type of leadership Sean possesses to see this idea come to fruition. The town administrator, along with the finance team, FinCom, Select Board, and others, have diligently worked over the last 6 years to bring the town's finances into order. This long-range planning, combined with many tough decisions, has borne fruit and has resulted in the town of Swampscott receiving a AAA bond rating from S&P. S&P reaffirmed the town's management score to very strong. This did not happen by chance, and certainly did not happen by accident. There are not many Massachusetts issuers, cities, towns, and municipalities that have this score. In fact, most S&P rated communities and municipalities have scores of strong or lower. As the town of Swampscott moves forward with bonding future capital projects, residents can rest assured that the town of Swampscott will receive the absolute best interest rate available for general obligation bonds, which translates into potential interest savings totaling millions of dollars over the life of the issuances. Fiscal 23 was not without challenges. The town of Swampscott left civil service and effectively controlled its own destiny with hiring new police officers, yet the town and the police union struggled to do so in a timely manner. The process enacted was too slow to successfully hire for our town. That said, and much to the credit of the town administrator, Sean acknowledged that doing the same thing and expecting a different result would not benefit the residents of Swampscott. So he pivoted and worked with the union to revise the process, as well as asked the Select Board to assist with funding bonuses for lateral transfers, which has yielded results for our hiring process, as shown at one of our recent Select Board meetings at the end of December. Challenges remain with communications and community engagement, which can always be improved. And while the town's redesign of its website is an incremental improvement, there's still work to do to make our website and its landing pages more engaging, more focused, and more user-friendly. Communication plans for each individual town department should be imagined and implemented to ensure residents know what is happening and the website is more user-friendly. As a town, we need to continue outreach to inform those who are not already connected to town robocalls, emails, and social media. Swampscott faces challenges with the impacts of climate change. To that effect, we need to refocus efforts and energies on advancing climate resiliency efforts and support the work of the Climate Action Plan Committee and their goals. This is only intensifying, and as a waterfront community in the Commonwealth, this should be a focus of our town planning and community development efforts. This should be prioritized as we move forward with major residential and mixed-use development projects in town. During this review, communication and follow-through and follow-up were areas that many select board members noted as needing improvement. The select board and staff have a full plate. However, we want to implement better processes and procedures to ensure that we can continue to achieve many of the goals and objectives set forth by the town, by the board of the town and the town administrator. The select board requests that Sean continues to make a determined effort to improve communication and listening skills, organization, and time management. The town administrator's time is very valuable, and he should structure and organize himself accordingly. This will likely result in the need to delegate some tasks to other staff members, as there are simply not enough hours in the day, and the town administrator has surrounded himself with a strong team ready, willing, and able to assist. It is the hope of the select board that by delegating some of the town administrator's tasks, that more timely follow-up and next steps can and will emerge from our first and third Wednesday meetings, typically. This implementation of a better process for follow-up and next steps will only help benefit the town and the town administrator and help keep the select board and all parties on task and the town of Swampscott moving forward. While there are always needs for improvement, the select board is satisfied with the town administrator's performance as well as the performance of the town. We are grateful for the numerous accomplishments and progress that we have seen within the town in 2023, and we're excited to have a town administrator who looks to do things not because they are easy, but because many of the tasks being addressed, including many infrastructure projects, including the new elementary school and Kings Beach, for example, were largely ignored for generations. We look forward to continuing to work with Sean and staff to realize a number of our aspirational multi-year goals and are excited about what the future will bring to Swampscott in 2024. And with that, I would like to open it up for comments from the board.
My first comment, David, is thank you very much for synthesizing all that and putting it together. As I said to you privately, you're a very, very good writer, and I think I imagine I don't know everyone's individual input, but I think that was a very balanced and yet positive and upbeat and appropriate assessment. So I appreciate your putting it together.
Thank you, Doug.
I think what's interesting about the town administrator review is that there are some similarities about how each of us look to Sean or look to, for improvements or accolades that we have seen happen in the last year. And then also there are some wild differences, right, in how either some things were handled or what the prioritizations are, what the goals should be. And that's what makes this board work, right, is because we all wear different hats and we all want different things, but we understand that as a plate fills, some things have to fall off. I think the number one takeaway from all of us was the idea of delegation and time management. And because to your credit, Sean, you have created a strong team around you that has the ability to take on more, and that will afford you more time to take on more important things. And I think we are all very excited about the prospect of that pushing us even further in how we handle things in town. Even more ambitious undertakings because there's more cooks in the kitchen to take on the duties. That, as much as that might feel like a criticism, it speaks to you and your hiring of the people around you and putting people in play who can take those items off your plate so you can take on more things.
Yeah, I just piggyback on that because you've also enabled, I know the dynamic, my review on this is really only 2 months, from August from April to June. But you've definitely set a tone along with the select board of high ambition, high aspiration. But with that, becomes you can't be Superman, right? So you got to have a team, and so I think that's a really great way of. I don't take any credit for the delegation idea, wherever that came from, but I do think that is the path to success to be able to continue to do all of these things and not have things not be followed up on or people be disappointed or not know where things are at, et cetera, is that other people have to kind of step to the fore as well.
Thank you.
For me, I want to keep in mind that this evaluation is for 2023, so that means July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. And during that time, I was very vocal, I remained very vocal about the lack of hiring for the police department and the stress that went on during that time. I was very vocal about not having a planner. So things like that did trouble me, and I'm hoping that if and when you reorganize and you're able to rely on your staff more, that things like that can go a lot more smoothly. Something that I have to be honest with, that I've really learned in the last year and a half working with you, is that your attitude every day when you come into work is something that I admire. And there are times when I don't feel like having that type of attitude when I go to work, and I have thought about you. As you and I have not agreed on many things, yet you have always been very courteous to me. And I think we have a fine working relationship. But I do want to see these improvements on communication and follow through, and I do want to help in any way that I can, because this is about our community. So that's what I have to say here.
Thank you.
I don't have much to offer. I really appreciate, David, you including the bit about, if you will, a little comparative to others, right? We are doing things as a town that towns aren't doing. And it's primarily because they're really hard. I think there's a lot of smart people, a lot of creative people in a lot of communities, but you can't do something without upsetting groups of people. You can't. And despite that, you have counseled me, and I'm sure others, and you've lived by it yourself, to assess it based on its merits, its importance, its place, its time, its need. And that is a remarkable bit of guidance for someone whose job is the ultimate political job. I mean, you are hired, you are monitored by 5 elected people. I wouldn't want the job because I think it's a really tough structure, right? But it takes a unique person and an ability to be able to do it and recognize that you are going to be, you use the phrase to people and you caution them, hey, take a position, you're going to be hit by traffic coming from both sides. But in reality, you do take positions and you still get hit by traffic on both sides, but you actually see that as part of your job. I really appreciate the fact that you continue to do that, in the midst of some of the toughest days when the criticism, fair, unfair, reasonable, unreasonable, is thrown your way, I have never once in 9 years, 8 years since you've been, 7 years since you've been here, I can't recall a single time that you actually were the one saying, hey, let's pull back because it hurts, right? Let's pull back because it hurts the criticism. You've shared at times not liking some of the criticism, and I agree with you 1,000%, and at times we're the source of the criticism to you. But you just continued your compass, and I've said this to people, you could fall out of a plane blindfolded and you would land pointing north. Your compass is undeniable. Your good days, your bad days, your compass is in the exact same place, and that to me is remarkable. We've had prior experiences with town administrators, so the town does have a comparative analysis. But I think the more relevant comparative analysis is just take any community in Massachusetts over the last 7 years. Any community, city or town. And I'm willing to put your record up and what you've been able to help this town do against anyone. I'm sorry that the public process for review is you're the only employee that has a public review besides the superintendent, and I hope people appreciate how awkward and difficult that can be. But you handle this as well as you handle the rest of the stuff, and I do finally just want to say I do appreciate the fact that as to the areas of improvement and criticisms and suggestions, it's not easy to hear, but you accept it and you hear it and you do work at it, and that's very meaningful, and so I'm grateful for you. And you know, when I look back at my time on the board, I think many of us feel the same. It's, you know, I know there's maybe divergent views here, but I believe my best things have been to help bring your vision to life for this town, and so I'm grateful to you.
Thank you, Peter.
Did you just call me Pete? I would like to change my remarks.
Yes.
Did,
You just called me.
I put an R on that, Peter.
I didn't hear the R.
It's my Massachusetts
It's an
dialect.
accent thing.
Well, look, if the board has nothing else, I do want to just share a few perspectives. I appreciate the time and effort that you put into evaluating my performance. It is difficult to have 5 select citizens who represent this town evaluate, my performance. The last couple of years have been the most difficult years of my tenure in public life, and I think any municipal CEO would say the same thing. These jobs are becoming more and more impossible. The acrimony, the vitriol, it's hard, but I do get bolstered by the progress that we make on civic level. You know, the sense that we're going to cut a ribbon on a brand new elementary school that will serve, tens of thousands of young citizens and be the best school in the Commonwealth over the next few months is a credit to an incredible amount of hard work. The sense that somehow we've been able to acquire open space and really think about ways to balance financial priorities to help ensure that Swampscott has a little bit more of affordability. These are all tough and really difficult responsibilities, but we've done it. This past year, we've tracked, just from this board, over 160 individual requests. Diane's done a really good job trying to help me get better at being responsive to this board. Still not perfect, and there's more work for us to do, and I really do want you to feel as though your desire to help support this town will be met with our commitment to give you the best level of support that we can muster. But we are busy, and it's not an excuse. It's just there are days that, frankly, I could stay, 24 hours a day and just not get through everything. It's just.
You're not staying 24 hours a day?
No, it's a lot. I think about it almost 24 hours a day. I do think, it's important that we continue to come back and really, whether or not we agree, Mary Ellen, on anything, I do think it's important that we recognize that we find common ground. I look at your concerns about municipal finance as probably the most amount of agreement that we have in terms of keeping Swampscott affordable, and that's a huge cornerstone. We need that more than ever these days, so I would kind of try to keep certain things in context. I do try to find a way to connect to each of my colleagues on this board in ways that I hope will help you feel as though your time on this board will be worthwhile and will be worthy of your continued effort. The most significant determinant about a community's ability to achieve extraordinary things is the tenure that you spend on this board. You can look around, it's the time that we have continuity for ideas to manifest into reality. So let's continue to do our best to support each other. I will take your feedback in your individual evaluations and meet with each of you and try to listen more and speak last. I think that's a goal that I'm working on. I appreciate that some of you have recognized that I'm trying to get better at that. I'm woefully inadequate, but I'm working on it.
Thanks, Sean.
Mr. Chairman, I think, if I may, under the town administrator's contract, there's compensation, one of which is a discretionary bonus. There's also a deferred bonus. The deferred bonus was designed as a retention incentive to encourage financially the town administrator to serve as long as possible in the town, and that's automatic. But for the standard that's in the contract is if the board determines the town administrator has reasonably satisfied goals set out for him, it shall pay the town administrator the following bonus. I will say this: you help set your goals. Your goals are longer than any of our goals. You could add all of our goals together. Your goals are longer. So you do put a ton on your plate, and you challenge yourself, and you don't make it easy. And maybe at times that's where sometimes we get a little frustrated because we're like, you're doing so much, or there's so much that we want to do. But I just want to say that there's no doubt in my mind that you've reasonably satisfied the goals, and doesn't mean that they're done, doesn't mean that they're perfect, but the fact that you keep at them and you keep adding to them and you keep, there is no finish line, right? And you've never defined a finish line. It changes. Our needs change as a community, and frankly, the stuff that we talked about pre-COVID and post-COVID, the words we use, the ideas we have are different, and that's because we evolve, and you keep changing the finish line in a very healthy way for us because we're a living, breathing community. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve payment of the full amount of the discretionary budget for fiscal year 23 as set forth in the town administrator's contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion. I think the remarkable thing about you, Sean, is, if I'm being fully honest, even if I'm giving you a criticism that is, hey, you have so much on your plate, maybe you should delegate some of it. You're like, yes, but what about this? I also want to put this on my plate. And it's a remarkable characteristic because, as Peter says, you're always moving that finish line. You're never satisfied, which we have had town administrators who have been satisfied with mediocrity or the average or what peer communities were doing. And it didn't do anything to set Swampscott apart, to push us forward. And I think that some of your most lofty goals have put Swampscott in a class of its own. And I think that sure, there are definitely things that we want you to improve. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you've reasonably satisfied the goals you put forward. As Peter said, if you put less goals forward, it would be much easier for us to say that, but that wouldn't be you. So that is why I second that vote.
Well, I have a question. My understanding was that we were asked what percentage of goals, and last year we took the percentages and combined them. That we're not doing that this year?
Well,
We actually did. Last year I made a motion, and it wasn't based on percentages, because I didn't know anybody's percentages.
I think last year Neil came out with said what the number was.
No, I actually came out with a
motion. I watched the meeting.
Was
from
the motion?
Yeah, so again, this is not an averaging effort in my mind. We're a board like anything else. We take a vote to do this. So I don't know what you guys all said, but this is, to me, it's a decision of the board by majority, but last year I made a motion not knowing them as well for the town administrator's bonus.
I just had a comment. Over Christmas break, I went to the JFK Museum, JFK Presidential Library, and from the inaugural address, 1961. All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of this administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. But let us begin. And when I read that, I took a picture of it. I sent it to you, and I thought of you, because there's so many things that that we're starting as a town, as a board. So many initiatives that are gonna outlive you and outlive me in this board, but will be here for the town. And it's really hard to quantify that within an annual review, because so many of these things that you've accomplished were started years ago, and so many things that are being started today will be completed you know, in 5 years and in 10 years, and, you know, we will see that, you know, at future times. So I just wanted to read that and you know, read that for the record and just let you know that publicly.
Really appreciate that, David. I really appreciate that all these things we do together, but I am proud of the opportunity that this board has given me to serve in this position. These are important roles, and, you know, I will always believe that, you know, as the great-grandson of people that moved to this town, you know, in the 1920s, you know, this is a privilege for me, and I do want to make sure that, you know, when this is all said and done, that this place is left in a better place.
Thanks, Sean. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second.
So I have a comment.
Go ahead.
At the risk of being somewhat skunk at the garden party, I'm not quite on board with 100% payment of the discretionary bonus or whatever. I think we've talked about, you know, and been very kind and appropriate in terms of all of progress. And we've also noted that there are some areas for opportunity for improvement. And so in my kind of estimation of that, that doesn't necessarily add up to 100% bonus. That's not the way I've kind of experienced my entire career in terms of, you know, either receiving or handing out discretionary bonuses. So, you know, the motion on the table is the motion on the table. I would, you know, I would prefer it be something more in the order of 80%. But, you know, there is a motion right now. I understand that's what we'd have to vote on right now, but that's my kind of directional intention. So it's a lot of enthusiasm and confidence that things are moving in the right direction, but to me that doesn't quite add up to 100%. So it's a little bit difficult thing to say, but there it is.
Okay.
So I am going to echo what Doug said, but I also, with all due respect to you, Doug, your part of evaluating his time was only 8 weeks.
That's correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to.
Absolutely. I acknowledge that in the beginning.
But they were a great 8 weeks. You did a lot in that 8 weeks.
80%.
It's not about me, it's about what Sean did in those 8 weeks. So, yeah.
We're doing your review next. All right, so.
Excellent, 100% of zero, excellent. Yeah.
All right, so I'd call for a vote. All in favor of the motion on the floor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. 3-2, motion carries. Thank you. And,
Thank you.
and just, yeah, and thank you to the hard work of the board. I mean, this was a lot of information. It was a lot of, it was a lot of email correspondence back and forth, so thank you for taking the time.
I want to just thank my colleagues, department heads and staff. All of our work, frankly, would be impossible without their dedication and hard work. You know, we are supported by, I do believe, the best team in the Commonwealth. I think we have some of the most dedicated and committed boards and employees, and we're fortunate to have their level best.
Thanks, Sean. All right, we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda is designed to expedite the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the board. The Select Board may adopt the entire consent agenda with one motion, and at the request of any board member, any items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Select Board time.
I'd like to thank Maura Lau for coming to resident comment once again. It takes a lot of work to come down here, encourage.
Have a-
I also want to thank Joe Dulett and Joe, who's back there with you? Daniel Reski and Nathan Kent. Nathan Kent for their hard work. And I also want to thank the 4 little 10-year-old girls that are at my house taking care of 2-week-old puppies so that I can come here tonight. Thank you.
It takes a village.
Takes a village.
That's very true.
Would you mind if we spent just a couple minutes talking about our upcoming meetings?
Yeah.
Just because I think it would be helpful if we might just have a sense of kind of the path towards, we were talking about a special town meeting at the beginning of March, and then we have a regular town meeting and a budget and a whole bunch of things, and it would be helpful to prepare mentally, I think, to just talk about some of those things. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe we could just talk through the next couple of meetings to.
Sure.
And again, I don't say this, you don't have to have it all figured out right now. We can talk as a group to think about it. It would help me because I don't have any insight as to kind of the next couple of meetings.
Sure. Sure. So we're meeting today on the second Wednesday of the month. It would have been virtually impossible to meet on January the 3rd. My thought is we have a meeting 2 weeks from this evening on January the 24th. And because January has 5 Wednesdays in it, we can then reconnect and move forward with the regular cadence of meetings on the first and third Wednesdays thereafter. So we would have a meeting on January the 24th in regular session and a meeting on February the 7th in regular session. And we may have the need to meet an executive session on any number of topics. But for now, regular sessions would be January 24th, February 7th.
And then what's after that? We always have a February vacation, kind of. The 21st would be our 3rd, and it's always in the middle of February vacation, so we typically switch it out of there.
Yeah, correct.
Can we just talk about what date that would be, and then we can go back and talk maybe some topics?
Yeah, we may need to have a meeting. We may need to have back-to-back meetings, so we may have. I want to avoid the 14th of February if possible.
As much as I'd love to.
So I think the town administrator. I'm sorry.
I said as much as I would love to spend Valentine's Day with you all.
Yeah. Sorry.
We've actually done that. But I think Sean had mentioned March 5th as the current tentative date for a special town meeting. I heard rumblings that there may be a conflict on March 5th with something.
There's a primary election on March
4th.
Oh, 4th.
No, the
5th is a Tuesday.
5th would be a Tuesday, right?
Yep, the 5th is a
Yeah,
Tuesday.
the primary is Tuesday, March 5th. So we're looking to meet on Monday, March 4th.
Yeah, sorry, I said 5th. I meant to say 4th. My apologies.
Special.
All right, so Monday, March 4th is tentatively.
That's right.
All right, so I think that does mean that second week, and kind of working backwards, that second week of February, it probably means we have to meet again just because we have to close the warrant.
Yep.
To allow town staff to do everything they're doing. So can we just talk briefly about what day on the week of February 12th?
Yeah, would we be able to meet on the 13th or the 15th, Tuesday or Thursday?
I can do either and happy to do either.
So I wasn't being sarcastic. I'm happy to meet with you on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, Valentine's Day, my life is every day's Valentine's Day, so I can officially miss Valentine's Day.
Romeo.
Any
Where's
of
our-
those 3 days are fine with me.
What's that?
Any of those 3 days.
Any of those 3
Would
days? I don't have a,
Tuesday and Wednesday would require a 6:30 start. But if you did it the 15th, I could be here by 6, or earlier even, because I work from home typically.
So I want to do the 15th? Well, let me ask the town administrator, does the 15th give you enough time to get things out?
It does.
No, I think you need to think about that for a second, because I think if it's the 4th, I'm not sure it does.
Doesn't matter.
It's a short month, remember?
It's more than
So
2
we meet on
weeks.
the 4th. The final date to close the warrant is February 13th.
No.
That'll give legal 24 hours to review it, and then the warrants need to be mailed on February 15th.
So we have
Why
to
don't we
meet
just
the
do it
12th or
during
the 13th.
Why don't we just do it on the 7th?
Oh, sorry.
Because
we may need,
we may be able to, but in the event that we aren't able to, I think having a scheduled meeting for the following week is a smart thing to just reserve us, because
so do we have to be done with?
good intentions aside,
So we have to meet the 12th or the 13th.
The 12th.
12th or the 13th. I don't care either, for me.
I'm flexible.
Is the 12th fine, because then it gives town staff 48 hours to do what they need to do, as opposed to 24?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Okay.
To be at 6:30.
But unless it puts undue pressure on you, Sean, to do it for the 7th, why don't we aim to do it on the 7th, so we're not completely against the wall. I mean,
Well,
and you're encouraging us, Peter, here to be thoughtful in advance, so we actually.
Well, we also have the 5th Wednesday in January, so we also have January 31st that we can work.
Right, but that's two meetings to open, review, and close a warrant, and we haven't even talked about what's in the warrant yet.
Understood.
So I'm just saying that.
We do have a copy of the draft.
No, I understand. We know what you may want to have in the
Gotcha.
warrant.
So
So-
then it's the 24th, the 7th, and then the 12th,
On the 12th.
It's the 24th of, it's the 24th of
January,
January,
the 7th of February.
7th of February,
And the 12th.
and the 12th of February. But we could also flex January 31st if we needed to.
So,
Well, why don't we do January, just to get everything done?
That's fine with me.
I mean, I'm fine putting it on calendar. I mean, maybe it helps if we talk about a couple of other things, because I think there's other things besides, there's a lot of just topics.
Right.
Because there are things that are not just town meeting warrant that are coming
Right.
up that we have to do. So my understanding is from past meetings that on the 24th, we're going to hear from and have a conversation on Hawthorne, right? And to me, it seems like that's the first opportunity for us to open the town meeting warrant. And so Sean, if you can send that out in advance to us so that we have that, like, it's done now, so great, send it to us again, even if it's the same as what we got previously. And then that allows us to review and come and be prepared to talk about things, about it, and have a conversation about what we want to do with the town meeting warrant, et cetera. And so that's the 24th.
I have a topic for that date, if this is a good moment to, potentially a discussion of specialized building code. Doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna make it to the warrant, but there's a need to have some discussion of that. It has implications. I don't need to get into all the details
Doug,
right
can
now.
we catch up tomorrow and we can
Yeah.
talk a little bit about,
Yeah.
making sure we.
But it could just, again, it doesn't have to necessarily mean it's gonna go on the warrant, but
Yeah, I'm happy to actually consider adding that, but I need to discuss that with council and make sure that we have a runway for.
So the other thing that I think is coming up that I think is, I'm going to suggest is just a select board meeting. The only topic for a select board meeting, but it's really a public forum as much as a select board meeting, which is, I think by the week of January 29th, knock on wood, there would be a presentation by several of the respondents to the Hadley RFP. I think the current, I don't, not prepared to have the conversation here, but I think it would be a public presentation by, and again, I mean public, for the public to come and see it, have it televised. Have it be a select board meeting, because we're all going to be together and we can ask questions if we want to. So it's really welcome several of the respondents to come and share their responses. And I think my suggestion is going to be that maybe we save the 31st
For that.
as that night. And hopefully not have to add anything else to it, because frankly, it's going to be better as a public forum as opposed to actually a select board meeting. I would propose that we're not even sitting up here or wherever we are, we're sitting in the crowd with everybody else, just because I think it's a chance for the public to hear it and then give us feedback, after that meeting at another time. So
Would we envision that happening in B-129, or would we look?
I don't know. I think I'd want to talk,
do the?
honestly, I think I'd want to talk to Joe a little bit and think about what the setup is and what the forum is, and these people are going to be here and what they may want to show and present.
What the technology, the
Yeah, I
technological
think I
needs.
just want to do it in a way that makes it, especially for those that aren't here, which would be the majority of people watching it, that it's easiest for them to, at a later date, take it, see it, and have it be visible, audible, et cetera, et cetera. And so it may be here, but we can maybe connect and brainstorm about that, Joe. About that.
Can we work on the 30th?
And then on the 7th, oh, I'm sorry.
I have a conflict the 30th, the 31st.
Okay, well, we can change that. No, but we can change that.
We can change it.
The 30th or the 1st.
So I think I'd probably change it to the 30th, just to
Keep it in January.
keep it in January.
Okay.
I think then on the 7th would be closing, ideally would be closing the town meeting warrant, but just in case we have the 12th. But that would be predominantly town meeting warrant. And I think either on the 7th or the 12th, Hadley would show up back on our agenda.
because this board would need to have discussions and make a decision as to who to, and what, if anything, to do next. And I don't know which date that would be at this point, but.
That's fine. I mean, we've figured out the next.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying,
Well,
I'm trying to
yes.
throw it out there because I think as though,
So we have the 24th, the 30th, the 7th, and possibly the 12th, if necessary.
so is the 30th what we're settling on then for
30th.
we haven't, I don't think staff has reached out to confirm that date with the respondents yet, so let's kind of call that tentative, just to
Okay.
make sure the groups that are to come here can be here on those dates. I think the preference is to have them in person, not on Zoom,
Yeah,
to meet them and have them here.
I think that,
Agree.
And do we have, as far as with the Hadley, do we have that information accumulated by Pinnacle?
So, no, no, I think everybody here has the,
RFPs.
I think
Right.
has that, has the responses. So in the next week, so that bunch, staff has asked for some supplemental information to be filed by each of the respondents, just to fill any gaps, to make everything complete from the respondents. So staff's reached out to get that. That's then going to Pinnacle and staff for them to then coordinate it all together. So Pinnacle's also looked at them originally, the RFPs, and actually helped create that list of follow-up questions. To be, not questions like interview questions, but say, hey, we noticed you're missing this, or it's not clear what you meant by this, can you explain this? And so follow-up questions went out just so that the proposals themselves would be complete.
So they went out and we're.
I think responses are due end of Thursday or Friday of this week, and then I assume sometime by mid next week, everything would be assembled. I'm making that, I have to talk to staff, but it seems reasonable by mid of next week. Everything would then be presented to you all, us all, on that. The only thing that's not going to be, again, publicly discussed is the economics, the price proposals, until we select a group for now. But the proposals themselves will be public.
But the prices are not public.
Correct.
Okay.
So you say the proposals are public, so the public can see those proposals right now?
They're not online, but they are a public document, I believe. Sean, am I correct of that?
So are we putting them online?
We don't have them digitized yet.
We don't, and frankly, there's some
Okay.
information that we would have to.
Well, we have, even the public stuff has to get redacted because
Right.
there are financials
Yeah,
that have been
that's-
submitted.
yeah.
And so I think, so maybe, it may make sense for you to have staff
Redact.
to just start the process of redacting, because there's financials, there's references, there's personal
Contact
information.
information, yeah.
Not, and the price stuff is separate all by itself, but,
We've already begun those conversations.
okay.
My concern is how quickly can we get that information to the public? That's-
I'll get you an update in some next few days.
So how about we try and set a goal?
Okay.
Because I hear that
Next
at
week?
least one of us likes goals.
Yep.
And so, if we could establish by next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, to be able to
Have it up online?
Have those online.
Redacted?
I think that would be great. 'Cause
Personal
that would give 10 days
information redacted?
before the public forum. Again, I don't know that all proposed respondents are going to be presenting on the 30th. Numerous of them, but not necessarily all of them. But then all the proposals, people will have had them for 10 days before the public forum.
Sure, we can make that happen.
Okay.
All right, thanks for going through that exercise.
Yep, thank you. Additional select board time from other members? You went. You're good.
Well, I missed the last meeting because I was out ill, so happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I forgot to give my, I didn't get to wear an ugly sweater, and I missed all those things, but looks like you're all in good health for 24, so keep it up.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. I don't have anything additional to add, and I would,
Yeah, I guess a couple quick things. One, Climate Action Planning Committee had a meeting the other night. Actually brought in a couple of other committees, Harbor and Water and Conservation Commission, to have a discussion about resilience measures, and with Director of Community and Economic Development there to help guide us towards municipal vulnerability grant. We got that before, as people may recall. It helped to kind of berm up a lot of the beaches. And there's an opportunity for another grant coming up. So we wanted to have begin some discussion about what that we might be going after. What do we need to do about seawalls or the fish house, or additional kind of berming and grassing, or arcs on the seawalls, or what are the things that we need to be thinking about in terms of that grant. So there's some kind of thinking and talking going on about that, FYI.
Can I ask you a quick question? What about the money that the governor just announced, I think it was 2 weeks ago, for coastal communities? This is something brand new. Have you talked to Jenny Armini or anyone about that? Is that on your radar?
I'm aware of something that they talked about longer ago than that.
This is pretty recent.
Yeah,
Okay.
up in Beverly, she announced the
Yeah.
program. Yeah, we've
It's
been,
really new.
following that. Certainly, we plan on applying for a number of grants for resiliency. If you read the Harbor and Waterfront Plan, there's all sorts of projects in there to help with coastal flooding. Today was a perfect example
Yes.
of how cantilevered seawalls would have caught the storm surge, and the pier.
Our pier caught the storm surge.
Yeah, the pier caught.
Sure did.
Sure did.
Pictures of it.
Yep.
Sure did catch it.
Damaged
Yeah.
again.
Do
And
water
so for the
skiing
folks
and
that are thinking that pier doesn't need to be
Pier wasn't underwater.
replaced or heightened, yep.
Go look at the damage at the
Literally.
fish house.
It's not underwater.
No, it was not underwater, you're right.
The
You're
planks
right.
came up
It
and
wasn't you were technically correct. All of the pier was.
I have,
Just don't forget my view.
I know, well, I know about the view.
there was flooding one end of Humphrey to another today, so yes, definitely, plenty of opportunities there to think about that. And the other thing I'll say is, maybe everyone got this, there are some fundraisers being planned for the Glover this weekend at Mexicali, and I think the 29th at the Dockside Pub. So people can show up, and like 20% of your bill or whatever, anyone's bill that mentions the Glover goes towards the Glover.
have a
Lots of other
question for
activity
Glover.
going on there, planning, et cetera, et cetera. I won't get into the details of, but just that, is proceeding, so.
On the Glover,
Yeah.
my understanding is the roof is in bad shape. Is there a possibility of putting any type of a covering to protect that? I mean,
there is, yep.
There is. Who can do that? Is that the DPW and the fire department, or?
It's owned by the Athanas family, and
Can we-
so I've been in touch with them, and we are looking to coordinate some type of coverage.
It's not ours.
Okay.
There's work being done to assess the specifics, and Sean has that information, and,
DPW's been down there, fire department's been down there, we know the areas,
It just seems like this is going on, and meanwhile, you're saying, hey, come and eat Mexican food and get us some money, but there's a big hole in the ceiling, and we don't have a tarp on it.
Yep, it's been there for about 20 years, so
Yeah.
we're gonna jump on it.
it's actually not a big hole in the ceiling, but anyway, yeah, there is.
It's,
Okay.
We're gonna do our best to help salvage that. I'm working closely with Historic Commission and Doug, but we've gotta do it in a way that's safe and that's legal.
Legal.
It's not our property.
That's it, thanks.
All right, thanks, Doug.
How about a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Aye,
great
thank
night.
you.
Thanks, Joe.